right to Toronto because we're right on time. Robyn, if you're with us. The first thing I want to ask is if Robyn has anyone in Toronto, in the Toronto audience, who's looked at Tristram Stuart's website and understands that, in fact, a Feeding the 5,000 event has never happened in Canada's largest city. I don't think it's happened right inside Vancouver either. Are there people in Toronto who heard about the Feeding 5,000? Have you guys had one? I'm ashamed that we haven't had one in Toronto. Have you got anyone in the audience, Robyn, who's ready to coordinate a Feeding the 5,000 for us?
I don't see anyone jumping out, but if you have, it doesn't look like it, Shelley.
Well, I'm going to be looking for a volunteer. I know we have Food Share and a few others represented in that room, Toronto Environmental Alliance. I'm going to be looking on my Twitter for somebody to tweet me that they're willing to help with this when I get back. Take a look at the map on Tristram Stuart's website, and you'll find there's a big gap right where we are. Tell us, though, what's the most burning question coming from your audience for any of the panelists? Tristram's here, Andrew and Martin still.
I have a question from Terry, and I believe it's Terry who's here with us in Toronto. She asks, studies show that newcomers have better sustainability behaviors than Canadians, but lose these within their first 3 years. How can we as a nation capture their knowledge and keep these habits? And I guess that would be a question for Tristram, probably.
If we capture the knowledge today, build new habits, how do we keep them?
The newcomers being immigrants, you mean?
Yeah.
I see. Well, it's absolutely the case that there are cultures all over the world who do believe and practice the principle that wasting food is it's a taboo. I remember when I first visited Xinjiang province of northwestern China, which I knew very little about. I was eating some rice in a restaurant, and the chef came down and he told me off for leaving 3 grains of rice in the bottom of my bowl. I thought, my goodness, I go around the world telling people to stop wasting food, and this guy's just thrashed me at my own game. So it is definitely the case that from other cultures we can remind ourselves that people who have remained in touch with what food really means, what resources, what labours of love have gone into producing our food, people who haven't lost that connection, look at our levels of food waste and are genuinely shocked. And by seeing our waste through their eyes, we will hopefully learn to be shocked again by waste in our own homes, waste in businesses, and waste all the way up the supply chain. So yeah, I agree, they can teach us a lot.
Thank you, Tristram. So if we want to, we really should include Vancouver in this. I will say that the most popular question is one that I think you can all answer, but it's definitely in the Canadian context, and that is, we can all see it here. What does Canadian law say about grocery stores redirecting food to charities? The U.S. has very clear language about legal protection for Good Samaritan donations. So what about us? Is this something that we're going to have to look at in the context of the National Zero Waste Food Working Group's current proposal?
I'm no expert. We operate under the assumption that sort of is in Canada as well. We donate our food to Food Banks Canada with the help of our food safety team as well. We have to look at the expiry dates. We have to look at the best before dates. But we do what we can and we give what we can under the understanding that there is not a protection, so to speak, but we're doing it in good faith, or we're doing it in goodwill. And for the right purpose and for the right cause, and we're not really worried about needing that protection, as long as we give healthy and safe food.
Excellent. So we're a little out of time. So I'm going to wrap by saying that that's one of the things very much being looked at, but that if there were legal impediments, examples like Moisson Montreal have have found a way that the charity themselves do the cold chain management, and so there's lots to be learned there, and National Zero Waste is going to help them get that out. The other most popular question from Grady Ott is, what is the real truth about best before labeling? And I think the best way to end it, we're really pressed for time, but I think if all three of you want to speak quickly to that, that's really key, because for the Food Working Group and National Zero Waste, and I think for a lot of people in both audiences, that's our next step after this, the current donation initiative. So what's the real truth about best before labeling, Tristram?
The truth is, firstly, that customers, by and large, don't correctly interpret the different labels that exist, the best before, the use by, the sell by, the display until. They're confused by this labeling. And the second is that the retailers and manufacturers use this labeling in overcautious ways and sometimes misleading ways. I would say that, of course, there are many agencies that can help to educate people that something that is past its best before date is still perfectly fit for consumption. It's just not any longer guaranteed to be at the top of its quality according to the manufacturer, but in no way is a risk to human health. And I think that retailers and manufacturers should look wherever possible. Some of them have, at how they can extend those shelf lives to reflect really what the dangers are, if there are any, and to make their labels much, much clearer so that ordinary people don't get confused by what they mean and end up throwing away something that is still perfectly good.
Does the fact that activists are trying to make that happen strike fear in your heart, Andrew?
No, not at all. I just to echo what Tristram said, please use it as a guide. When you have food in your fridge or within your pantry, please don't throw away perfectly good food. I know myself as a single dad, I have lots of very close best before dates within my fridge right now, but I usually do that sniff test or whatnot, and then I feed it to my 12-year-old kid, and he sees he's still alive. So.
Note for governments who say we can't do this because retailers don't want us to do this. I think they're reasonably calm. Martin, is there potential here? Is this what we should be looking at next?
Yes, and I think there's two sides to the story. One is, how do we flow products to the consumer quicker so that they have longer to consume the food? Right. The other one is, a good starting point, in my opinion, will be having one format for best before dates and use by dates. Mm-hmm. You can go into a retail store, and because of no fault of the retailer, you have the same type of products labelled differently in terms of use before or best by date. That's confusing for consumers. I've fallen into that trap myself.
Thank you. And I think we'll end on that note, because there's lots more work. We could do a whole session on this next year. Thank you so much.